So, very good evening to all of you. This is we are into the fourth day of this faculty development program on a very important topic. The topic is relevant to all of us in the academia as well as in the industry. So, the host for today is Professor Nageshwari. She is Assistant Professor at the Ananda Sagar College of Arts and Commerce, Bengaluru. So over to you, ma'am. You can give the introduction of our resource person and then we can start. Thank you. Just give me one moment. Let me stop the music.
Shall I start, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Start.
Yes, sir. I start with a quote by Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use it to change the world. A very good evening to one and all. Welcome to the fourth day of online FDP and workshop on future AI in education. I am Nagarajeshwari M, Assistant Professor, Department of BBA BCom, Dayananda Sagar College of Arts, Science and Commerce, and I will be your session host for the day. The Faculty Development Program and workshop on the future of AI in education. Enhancing teaching and learning is a comprehensive initiative designed to equip the faculty members and educational professionals with the tools, knowledge, and strategies to integrate artificial intelligence into the classroom. It's immense pleasure to welcome the speaker, Dr. Yerlagada Anuradha, Madam, for the fourth day FDP and workshop, organized by Sarada Gangadharan College, Puducherry, in association with CMAOI and AMIEE Association. Madam has completed her PhD in machine learning from JNTUH, Hyderabad. Madam has a total of 27 years of experience, of which 18 years of teaching experience and 9 years in the field of software development in creating solutions for web-based applications as well as standalone applications. Madam has industrial experience, worked for companies like IdeaSpace, Versasha, GE, Hyderabad, taking up various roles also. And also, the Madam has achieved in industrial field as a software engineer, and she's got appreciation for outstanding performance in IdeaSpace Hyderabad, promoted as a team leader, etc. Madam has got 4 patents and 1 published patents. And Madam has nearly 25 plus publications in her service. We are very happy and proud to have you with us, ma'am, for the today's session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. That was like I'm honored to have to be part of this FDP, and thanks for the excellent introduction.
Thank you.
Am I audible, or you have any problem with my like voice? Please just let me know if you have any concerns regarding the presentations. Is my voice audible?
Yes, ma'am. It's perfect.
Yeah. I'm sharing the screen. Today, as part of the schedule, I'm going to talk about AI for research and institutional development. Let me introduce myself as it's been already introduced, Dr. Yalagadda Anuradha. And as per the schedule, I'll be talking about AI for research and institutional development, AI-driven research enhancing academic publications, AI and big data in educational management, and then using AI to predict student performance and dropout prevention, AI for institutional decision making and policy development, cybersecurity and data privacy in AI driven educational systems. I hope my screen is visible. Just please respond. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. It's visible and clear.
Yes, right. Just a moment. Yes. Okay. Just to start with AI for research and institutional development, what was actually when we were doing our research, we were like to follow the conventional research process, which includes identifying the problem, literature review, hypothesis formulation, research design, data collection, data analysis, interpretation, and conclusion. Of course, when we are doing the analysis, probably we might involve the algorithms, model, etc., and then report writing as well as publications. This was the conventional research process which we adhered to when we were working on our researches. So what were the tools that we used when we were doing this research in a conventional methodology? We had to go for surveys as well as questionnaires and then interviews, case studies, and then we used to work for, we look into the library, and then look for journals, and then all the journals are not available, all these things, as well as moreover, we used to have human-centric interpretations. It was really a tough and like a nightmare to get the data, get the information, and then understand the case studies. So there were a lot of limitations of using this conventional research, which was time consuming, labor intensive, prone to human error, and there are a lot of biases that can be involved in. And it is like a lot of, and then the handling data is limited even. So these are the traditional research methodologies before the development of AI was a little bit like data collection and analysis. We had to gather the data from experiments, surveys, or observations by hand. Analyzing the data took a lot of time, using, like, we used to use the calculators, spreadsheets, or basic softwares to work out with our research. And then progress relied heavily on scientists and engineers experiencing and gut feeling to make decisions, often based on trial and error rather than data driven insights. And as I told you, it was a lot of time consuming, and we had to do physical experimentations and prototype testing, which was very slow. Each test had to be set up, observed, and then manually recorded, often repeating the same test many times. See, the same test has to be performed many times so as to get the experimentation results. And then limited data processing capacity. Like researchers could only handle small data sets. We call them, if the entire data set is being called as a population, only a sample of the population is being taken for processing and analyzing, which was being interpreted for large amounts of information, which was even like sometimes is not giving us good answers. And one more thing which was very important, and the limitation with the traditional research and development was high costs and longer product cycles. So since experiments took a lot of time and resources like material, labor, equipment, developing a new product could take years and involve high financial investments. So what is how, like, now with now we could see that AI has introduced in the research, and we can see a lot of advancements that are happening with the introduction of AI in research. Now, what is AI? I just wanted to give a single line of sentence, because we've been talking about the AI past 3 days. AI is nothing but a system which is mimicking human intelligence. So how is that AI helping us? AI is helping to solve all the problems which I have told earlier, like it helps in data analysis, pattern recognition, prediction models, automating processes, and all these things. Not only this, NLP for literature review, natural language processing for literature review, machine learning for analysis, ChatGPT for writing as well as brainstorming, and AI-based data analytics tools, automated referencing. All these things are now introduced and made easy with the advent of AI tools. So problem identification has become easy, finding out the trend analysis has become easy, and then
Ma'am, your voice is not audible.
Hello, ma'am.
yeah, I'm sorry, I lost connection. I'm just rejoining.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, is that fine? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you. Right. So with the advent of this research, the AI, now research has become very easy, and then we are easy in the sense of speed as well as efficiency, and then accuracy enhancement has happened, and then now we can handle big data, wherein which repetitive tasks are being handled, and then we can work on the new insights that are being provided on. So now let us see what are the, like, in a conclusion, with the advent of, like, if I can to had to say, traditional and conventional research is more of human centric, and then AI enhances the research, and the future will be all a blended approach. So let us now come into the AI tools and technologies that help in the research. The first and foremost comes the Chat GPT or Gemini or Claude. So where are we going to use this chat GPT? If I can say, where am I, if I can talk about where am I not using chat GPT? Name a thing, chat GPT. You can use chat GPT and then get the answer. So usage used for chat GPT can be used for content generation, research, wherein which you can get the summaries and brainstorming ideas for projects as well as experimentation. And then it helps in drafting even the proposals, literature reviews, and simplifying the complex technical language. What is that all you need to know is on how to prompt the chat GPT. Only thing is that prompting is what is makes you to get efficient answers from ChatGPT. And then if at all because I'm a professor, and then I used ChatGPT in generating the research proposal drafts, as well as potential AI model features, and then I have even asked for related research papers, and then rewriting the text even. So it even can have given, actually I have even implemented ChatGPT giving out 2 or 3 journals and then asked to summarize the journal articles and give me a consolidated research review, which has been saved a lot of time. So coming to the AI tools, ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude will be the first in place for the usage of research. Next is Semantic Scholar API. This gives us millions of research papers and their citations. So you go to Semantic Scholar API, you get a lot of research papers and then along with their citations. So you use AI to show the most influential papers. You can ask for most influential papers, and then you can ask for authors networks as well as citation trends even. So where are we really going to use this Semantic Scholar API? This can be used to identify top cited papers on AI in healthcare, or who is publishing most in this area. And you can even track the citation networks to find the influential studies. So how are we going to get advantage of this is we can find out the recent papers with high citations in a short time, and you can understand the emerging trends, and even you can understand the methodology, or which includes which methodology is being used for which type of approach, and this makes us save a lot of time. Next in this is Scopus AI or Elsevier Explore, and then this tool provides journal impact analysis, helps in analyzing or selecting the right journal for publication, because every journal has its own impact factor, and finding out the impact factor is obviously necessary for presenting our papers. So Scopus AI Elsevier Explore will help us in understanding the journal impact factors. So how are we going to use is, before publishing our findings, we have to use Scopus AI to check the impact factor as well as the ranking of the journals. And you can analyze your own publication metrics and you can even track the competitors' publication activity. So if I wanted to work out on a Q1 journal or Q2 journal and then understand the impact factor, then Scopus AI or Elsevier Explore will help us to understand this. Next, and one of the most important as well as which is to be employed in any research paper is visualization techniques. So obviously, when I talk a lot,
Sorry to interrupt.
a visual gives.
Moving.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
Slides are not moving. It is still in Semantic Scholar API.
Semantic Scholar API. Oh, okay. I'll just share again and then see. Share my entire screen and then see. Now check it out, please. Is that moving? Yes?
Now it is.
Yes, ma'am, it's fine.
Yes, it's
Okay.
fine now.
Okay. Right. So the next foremost very important when we are talking about research is, see, I give lot of data. I have lot of numbers. I have lot of information that is to be published. Instead of writing text in terms of bullets or writing text in terms of paragraphs, the catchy thing that everyone will be appreciating is figures and graphs. That is what makes a lot of difference when you are writing research papers. So one of excellent tool that can help us in understanding or giving out the visualization aesthetics is a Tableau or even Power BI. So this helps in I mean Tableau helps us not only giving a like a visualization techniques after modeling. It can help in exploratory data analysis also, wherein which you can try to understand the trends, or you can find out the correlation between the data attributes, and then you can clearly picturize the interpretations. So Tableau is an excellent tool which helps us in giving you a visualization with AI tools for predictive modeling, natural language processing, as well as clustering. So even you can understand, or you can figure it out, the performance attributes like performance metrics, wherein which you can compare with accuracies, FN scores, recall, etc. And then you can find out the trends, outcomes, and using the Tableau. So basically it helps in understanding or visualizing the trends, visualize the analytics, and visualize your exploratory data analysis, or visualize how many papers your department is going to publish. This is all analytics. If suppose your department is publishing lot many papers, and you wanted to analyze how many papers are being published in the department, and what are the funding projects, as well as success patterns, and then faculty collaborations. This is all analytics we do actually, and this analytics which we have done can be presented in an aesthetic way using this Tableau. So AI related publications are rising in the department, and wanted to see about how much the rise has been there, as well as if suppose you wanted to understand the collaborate, how many interdisciplinary as well as interdisciplinary publications are happening, then best tool is Tableau or even Power BI also. Then very like AI tools, you have ML models, wherein which you are using Python's TensorFlow, scikit-learn for our predictive analytics, classification, regression, clustering in scientific experiments, as well as social studies. And it's common in bioinformatics, economics, psychology, and engineering research. Scikit-learn is used to build classifiers to detect it is basically used for classification, or can be for predictive analytics also. Like you apply TensorFlow for training a deep learning models with CT scan data, wherein which TensorFlow helps in generating results for huge amounts of image data. So, and then the next is a Microsoft Academic Graph, MAG, which is an OpenLX. This has been retired in 2021, but similar to tools like OpenLX, which has been taken over. And then the basic usage of MAG is it maps collaboration networks, tracks emerging trends, and analyzes citation relationships among research topics. Where a PhD student actually uses this MAG is to identify top researchers in the specific domain and find the collaborative opportunities. Suppose if a student wants to find out the collaborative opportunities in that particular domain, probably MAG will help the researcher a lot. So to summarize, MAG helps in discovering new research patterns, as well as find out the international or national collaborations, and then follow the citation trails of top researchers. So to summarize what we have discussed till now, because any research, so as I've told in the beginning of my presentation, any research is comprising of your first thing is your problem statement, and then you have to do literature survey. And then after literature survey, you have to have data generation, and then you understand the research trends, and then you understand the metrics, or metrics upon which you wanted to compare the evaluation part. So the tools that are necessary for your literature review, is a Semantic Scholar API, and Research 10 Discovery will help Microsoft Academic Graphs. For predictive analysis, as I also told, Python, TensorFlow, these are for like you do the analytics and code using Python, TensorFlow, or scikit-learn based on the model which you are trying to develop. And as I told you, data visualization visualization is for what? Visualization, you can visualize the analytics that are being made, and you can find out the exploratory data analysis between the attributes as well as and then quality assessment, the quality metrics that you wanted to perform, and based on what metrics you wanted to plot the graphs, etc. This is the whatever I'm now showing is a consolidated picture of what I have discussed. All the Semantic Scholar API, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Scopus AI, Elsevier, Explore, Tableau, and then Microsoft Academic Graphs, which understands the research trend discovery. So, what is that? Is research, as I told you, when we were doing, it was really like more hardsome, and with the advent of AI, like lot of growth opportunities have been cropped up. And then to name a few, like IIT Kharagpur launched the Center of Excellence in Artificial Intelligence, encouraging interdisciplinary research combining AI with agriculture, law, and healthcare. So it opened, like when we have, it has opened new fund. It opened new funding as well as project opportunities for students and researchers, including collaborations with ISRO, TCS, and the Ministry of Education. So this is literally a very important growth perspective from the research point of view, which is helping out an interdisciplinary research. Previously, when we wanted to work out on interdisciplinary research, because the first thing which was difficult was domain expertise. Now AI helped in understanding the domains and then working on this interdisciplinary projects. Next, the second and foremost development when we can see with the advent of AI tools is innovation. For this innovation, an example is AIIMS Delhi collaborated with Intel. Now you can see the interdisciplinary concept. IIT Kharagpur has an opportunity with agriculture, law, and healthcare. And then AIIMS Delhi collaborated with Intel as well as IIT Delhi to develop AI-based early diagnosis models for tuberculosis and lung diseases using chest X-ray images. So the result of this is reduced diagnosis time by over 70%, improving treatment plans and enabling faster AI-driven research trails in public health. And one more transformation with the with advent of research, AI is excellence, like institutional impact towards the excellence. IISc Bangalore integrated AI-powered tools with Scopus AI and Tableau to monitor research impact, faculty performance, and global ranking strategy. So as a result of that, which helped to identify top performing departments and researchers contributing to IISc being ranked #1 in India in QS World University Rankings 2024. Now, I would like to present a few of the tools which are being. So here I am sharing few of the tools which are being 13 best AI tools for students, professionals, and researchers. So you have Actify is a software tool which can be like a tool that quickly and easily generates YouTube videos. And you have Chat PDF is an open AI powered chatbot that accepts PDFs as prompts and can summarize, answer questions. And then Lex allows you to generate easy articles and stories with the help from an AI. And then you have Tome, allows you to use AI to generate content and image presentations, landing pages, and more. Next, SheetAI.ap app revolutionizes your Google Sheets experience with a powerful suite of AI-driven functions to help you to automate tasks and generate insights. And then you have GitHub, GitHub Copilot, which is an AI pair programmer that offers autocomplete site suggestions as you code. Then Taplio is an AI-driven LinkedIn automation tool. Then HeyGen is an AI video generator. Fireflies uses generative AI to bring ChatGPT to meetings, etc. AI tool offers like Notion AI offers a free and anonymous practice job interview chat using GPTB. And then you have Beehive AI is an artificial intelligence tool specifically designed for newsletter operators. Inbox Pro is a suite of tools designed to boost productivity in Gmail. And these are also like a few of the tools like teaching assistants, Magic School API, EduGPT, Almanac, next QueryPod. And then you have for course creation, Course AI, CourseBox, Lingio, and etc. For chatbot, you have ChatGPT, Bing Chat, Google Bard, Claude. And then for language learning, Duolingo Max, Twee, etc. And these are some few more tools for image generation, image editing, animation, as well as you have like image generation, you have Canva AI, Midjourney, Bing Image Generator, Firefly, etc. For image editing, you have ClipDrop, PixelCut, Remove.bg, Cleanup Pictures, etc. Animation, you have animated drawings, Scribble Diffusion, CapCut, etc. And then you have Chat PDF, Bing Chat, etc. So these are all a few of AI tools that helps in the research. So to conclude, what we have already seen, we have seen a lot of tools that help in making our research easy, as well as artificial intelligence is adopted and widely used in multidisciplinary domains, including research. We have seen the multidisciplinary research, and it can help researchers save time as well as improve the quality of their work. And then, like I told you as a recap, I'm just telling you popular AI tools in research include Semantic Scholar, ChatPDF, SciSpace, Elicit, and then research as well as research consciousness. And at the same time, it is important to maintain academic integrity, and researchers must take some steps to prevent plagiarism while using AI. So this is all about the tools that we have seen for research. Now, let us see how AI-driven research is helping enhance academic publications. So now we are going to see an overview of various AI tools designed to assist researchers in content generation, and then literature review, language enhancement analysis, as well as formatting. So these tools will streamline the research process, improve writing quality, and help in discovering relevant studies, ultimately enhancing the overall efficiency and effectiveness of the academic work. Now, I wanted to show you all the timeline of Gen AI models. Now, if you can see, ChatGPT is being developed by Microsoft and OpenAI, which has been released in 30 November 2022. And then there was a growth, and the next version is Bing Chat, which is being developed in February 2023. And then the competitors, Anthropic as well as Google, has started up their tools in Gen AI. Just to start up, before I give the timeline of Gen AI models, what is Gen AI? Gen AI is a generative model.
எல்லாத்துக்கும் குயிண்டுட்டோண்டமா
Someone is speaking. Please, can you mute your thing? Please mute. So Gen AI is like helps in generating a new content. And then we have a large language models, which are statistical models to predict the next sentence that is coming up. And then which is what even ChatGPT is doing on. So if I have to show you the timeline of Gen AI models, As I told you, the starting is with Microsoft and OpenAI developed this ChatGPT. Later on, Anthropic as well as Google started. With Anthropic started with Claude in March, and then Google with Bard. And then in May, July, you can see, just a second, yeah. Claude 2, Anthropic has released this version, Claude 2, Claude 2.1, Claude 3, and then Claude 3.5, and Claude 3.5. 3.5 is now up with July to October, somewhere around 2024. So Google has come up with Gemini multimodal, Gemini 1.5 Pro multimodals, as well as 1.5 2M context. So this is the full timeline of the generative AI models. And then if you can see, Google is coming up with extensive input, and then Anthropic is best writer long input, but Microsoft as well as OpenAI is good at reasoning. So we have open source text models like Llama 3.1, Mistral, etc., and image models like DALL-E, Midjourney, Flux, Ideogram, and then etc. Video models like Runway, Hailu, Pika, etc. So enhancing research with AI tools. However, as I told you, now what we have seen till now, we have seen the conventional methodology of writing research, wherein which we have multiple repetitive process which can be replaced by AI, and then you can work out on summarizing the literature reviews with ChatGPT, etc. Now, the next coming to the next level of research, wherein which we wanted some text to be generated, or we wanted some data to be generated, or we can have some content that is to be generated, is one concern that we have when we are writing the research. Along with content generation, we wanted to work out, suppose we are not much confident in the language. So now there are tools for content generation which help create and summarize the content. And then you have language enhancement tools, which improves writing quality as well as paraphrasing. And then you have tools for formatting, which ensures proper formatting and checks for plagiarism. And then, as I told you, literature review aids in reviewing relevant studies. And then there are multiple tools which helps you understand the analytics, wherein which you can understand the insights, wherein which the research trends as well as data can also be provided by this enhancing research tools with the help of generative AI. So, what is that these tools helping us? Helping in trained on open web knowledge, like we answering many of the questions, general questions you can even question. Only one thing what you have to do is give the prompt it, and then you can get the answers. So let me just again come to the ChatGPT, wherein which ChatGPT is, as I told you, is the best and is more used for any type of content generation. So default full research paper, abstractions, introductions, conclusions. You can ask for rephrasing the content, and then you can ask for and one more thing I have to give example is, now out of my experience, I'm telling you, lot of my work has been reduced, wherein which the prompt is being given to generate even the PowerPoint presentations. Give the content, prompt it properly, and then your ChatGPT is going to give you the PowerPoint presentations also. And Gamma is one of the software which helps you in generating your PowerPoint presentations. So, and it helps you to generate brainstorming ideas. And then anything, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini helps you in that way. And then you have Elicit, which automates the literature review process by answering questions like, what are the most used techniques in say deep learning? What are the most used techniques in generative AI? If suppose I wanted to use, I'm stuck in understanding the technique or understanding the algorithm that best suits my problem, probably then I can give a prompt to ChatGPT or Elicit. So what does it do? It extracts key details from papers like methodologies, outcomes, data sets from multiple sources, and which is helping you to save your time in understanding the prior work. Next, another important tool that helps in literature review as well as research discovery is Semantic Scholar, which has been which has high impact papers, and as I told you, for specific topics, which provides citation trends and key paper highlights, filters by publications, years, as well as citations, as well as authors. And then you have Research Rabbit, which helps like visualize how papers, authors, and topics are connected. And then it helps in identifying the stop gaps and overlook connections in literature. And it also tracks one idea has evolved across multiple publications. Like as an example, I've seen one survey where in which a professor in immunology uses Research Rabbit to trace how a 2017 paper evolved into a new research domain in 2022. And she discovers a gap in pediatric immune response studies and proposes a new research paper on it. So your Research Rabbit helps in understanding the gap that is being produced, that is being identified in a paper that is being published. And so this gap helps in this researcher understand the study and on it. So as I told you, we were talking about paraphrasing, and then Cite AI understands the credibility of the references by checking it, because we also, one of the things that any researcher, any research journal has the citations. So we need to understand the credibility of the research citations, which is being given by Cite AI. Next, helps avoid citing low quality and retracted studies, and it also verifies whether a key paper has academic consciences. Before citing a controversial paper on AI ethics, a professor can use Cite.ai to ensure it is being supported by other reputable journals, giving confidence to include in their review. So language enhancements and paraphrasing, we all know we've been using Grammarly. Grammarly is one of the good tool, helping us in fixing out spellings, clarity, grammar, and then suggesting academic alternatives for better language, as well as helps in non-native English professors polished writing. So all these things can be given by Grammarly. And then you have Quillbot, which paraphrase content to avoid plagiarism, and which is one of the important context of any research paper. And then helps in rewriting literature review sections, improve clarity, and reduces similarity index. So as I told you, the journals citation index can be obtained. Citation metrics and H index can be obtained using Scopus AI or Elsevier Explore. And then it analyzes trends and top authors in that field. Like, and then Microsoft Mag also, we have just seen what it helps us. So Turnitin is for plagiarism check. And then you have Paperpal, typeset.io, which automatically formats papers as per journal guidance like IEEE, or this is one of the best tool which is useful for, because multiple publishers will be using multiple formats, and then lot of time is like we work out on like a lot of time is being, I don't say it is wasted, of course we need to put a lot of effort on paraphrasing as well as formatting the paper. So your Paperpal as well as Typeset helps you in paraphrasing these things according to the formats that are being requested by either IEEE, Springer, or Elsevier. And then it even fixes grammar as well as technical structure, saves time during resubmission to multiple journals even. So when suppose if we are asked to revise and resubmit from an Elsevier journal, then the professor uses typeset.io to instantly reformat from the manuscript, saving lot of hours and manual citation rearranging. So this is a final summary. I just wanted to just give a summary. ChatGPT can be used for content creation, summarization, as well as editing, and Elicit for literature review automation. Semantic Scholar can be used for paper discovery and citation analysis. Research Rabbit for visual literature exploration, and then Cite.ai citation credibility, Grammarly for grammar as well as clarity enhancement. Quillbot for paraphrasing and similarity reduction, Scopus AI or Elsevier for journal selection and author analytics, Microsoft Academic Graph. MAG is for collaboration and research mapping, and you can find out the you can look for collaboration nationally as well as internationally. And then Turnitin is plagiarism as well as citation check. And then typeset.io or Paperpal for formatting as well as journal compliance. So these are all the tools which are really helpful for us in writing our papers. So this is a pictorial representation, what we have we have seen till now. Like you have literature review, semantic scholar, research rabbit, and then formatting Turnitin, typeset.io, Paperpal, the same thing, which is in a pictorial representation. Okay, fine. Now we have seen till now how AI tools are helping us in writing the papers, and where are we stuck up, and then how is it helpful is what we have seen. Now we will see how AI and big data in education management. AI is helping us in big data as well as education management. So AI and big data are transforming education management by providing insights into student performance, like resource optimization, optimizing resource allocations, as well as personalized learning experiences. Because we have technologies that are being now, we can see predictive analytics or automated administrative tasks or personalized learning paths helps us in understanding decision making, leading to an improved educational outcomes as well as institutional efficiency. So like AI, as well as if you can see here, AI and big data impact on education. Like a big data impact on education is based on the data, you can make a lot of decisions, and then you can enhance the student engagement, and then improved academic performance, as well as streamline the administrative efficiency, personalized learning experiences, and then you can streamline the process and ensure academic integrity. Now we'll see how we can go about these things step by step. So how is that AI helping us in enhanced student engagement? So AI powered platforms uses gamification, real-time feedback, and content to make learning more interactive and engaging. So this is how we can attract the students' attention. Now, as I told, the age-old conventional methodology of teaching or research has been now not entertained, and then even the students as well as the faculty are also more interested in understanding or in trying to make their lectures more effective so that they can grab the attention of the students. So gamification as well as content in a visualization format helps in students understand. Like to give an example, at University of Hyderabad, professors used AI-based LMS like Kahoot and Google Classroom, and even we use Google Classroom to run live quizzes during classes. And as I should say, thanks to COVID, because from COVID onwards, we are using this Google Classroom, wherein which all the quizzes are being conducted using this classroom. So this engagement rates jumped by 35% compared to traditional lectures, as students felt more involved as well as motivated. This is how AI is helping student enhancements. And then improved academic performances. So AI identifies students like who are weak through their performance analytics. As I told you, analytics can be done, and then we can understand the performance of the students who are weak and then who are sharp, and what measures can be taken for weak learners as well as quick learners. And then we can even provide a personalized content base to boost the scores. So example is like engineering colleges uses Coursera for campus AI dashboards to track students' progress in coding courses. This is one thing which helps us. And then there are lot many tools actually that are being AI driven, which is helping us to understand the analytics where the students are struggling on, what they are lagging behind, and then what type of personalized tutorials can be helped to improve their grades. And then coming to the administrative efficiency, administrative tasks such as administrative attendance, one of the key most thing is attendance, and then grading as well as schedule is being made easy with the advent of these AI tools. So use of AI-powered attendance and examination proctoring tools like face recognition via AWS recognition reduced manual workload by 60%, allowing faculty to focus more on teaching as well as mentoring. And then big data as well as AI track each student's learning pace, preferences, and progress to deliver tailored monitored content. And then as an example, data structure integrates Khan's Academy AI suggestion tools into Moodle. Students receive personalized topic recommendations based on quiz results, leading to higher student satisfaction and better understanding. Like processes like curriculum design, student feedback analysis, and timetable generation become faster and smarter with AI. So one of the timetable AI tools like Unitis is a timetable AI tool which is being used by one of the university to automatically create class schedules without clashes. It adapts to faculty availability as well as lab usage and students' course selections, reducing planning time from 2 weeks to 2 days. So Unitis is one of the tool which helps in streamlining educational processes. And then AI tools detect plagiarism, cheating, and academic dishonesty during examinations as well as paper submissions. Professors use Turnitin for plagiarism check. And then
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, how can we use this timetable AI tool?
You have to Unities is available. You just check it out, Google it, and then you can involve that. Has to explore first, download that, and then explore it. Then you can make use of this. Because I am I'm a hands-on. I'm not like I don't have in my scope of this. So just Unities you try to download and then work it out. You can work it out on this.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
AI-driven student supports like you have Admit Hub as well as ib.ai, which is been powered chatbots that act like 24/7 virtual student help desks. So this is how you can see actually wherein which like AI chatbots help in like virtual assistance, wherein which it has been clearly you students feel that someone is clearly talking to their talking to them. We know that chatbots are helpful in many ways. It's like admissions, course registrations, fee structures, examination schedules, campus facilities, and then NLP is one of the tool. NLP is one of the processing technique which helps to understand all these things. So Amity, to tell about this, Amity University implemented an AI chatbot to manage admissions related queries. Effectively handled over 80% of queries without human intervention. And this chatbot, of course, has been driven by AI and significantly reduce the workload as well as administrative staff. And then SRM Institute of Science and Technology deployed a multilingual AI chatbot to assist students from diverse linguistic backgrounds, enhancing accessibility as well as student satisfaction. These two chatbots help the students to understand about the queries. A lot of queries are being addressed using these two chatbots. And then predictive analytics like Starfish by EAB. Starfish by EAB is a powerful AI-based platform used by educational institutions to provide student retention, academic performance, and support systems through data-driven decision making. Like Civitas Learning uses predictive modeling to identify students who are at risk of dropping out, struggling academically, and then like how are they disengaging from their coursework or class activities. So first thing is data is being analyzed from the student attendance registers, grade trends, as well as LMS is the Moodle as well as Blackboard is a learning management tool which helps in understanding the student performance, and then it generates a student's success score and risk alerts based on these behaviors. Like, so this is one example. Lovely Professional University, LPU, uses, this is a real-time examination example. During online classes post-COVID, their analytical dashboard flagged students who didn't attend for 3+ sessions and scored low in weekly quizzes. So faculty used to receive alerts and call students individually, and then the reasons are being found out, and then the problem is being handled. So you can use dashboards to see at-risk students in the first 3-4 weeks, and then you can personally contact to them and then track. This is one of the best example. And next is Starfish by EAB, is an early alert student success platform that helps the institutions to monitor students' performance, coordinate academic support, track students' progress in real time. So faculty, this is, see, all these tools and what I'm now telling has to be explored. You can, now I am only giving you a brief overview of all these tools. These tools can help us in identifying the tasks, and then you have to probably, because I have shortage of time, I'm not explaining each tool in detail, but I'm giving you an overview of all the tools that each tool and the specific task that helps in. So we need to actually work out on each of the tools to understand its ability to address the limitations. So this Starfish by EAB can flag students manually who have missed classes and who have low scores, and it also detects behavioral patterns as well as, and it builds a student success network that connects students with right people, wherein which like you have faculty, students, as well as mentors, advisors, etc. So professors are being triggered with an alert messages if they missed 3 or more classes, and then accordingly measure can be taken to address this issue. So Vellore Institute of Technology uses predictive analytics from their internal student system with Moodle LMS. If student misses 3 continuous lectures or fails 2 quizzes, then there will be a flag. Faculty will be in alerted. And then class mentors call the student and check for personal or academic issues. And the flagged student is enrolled in remedial session or mentorship program. And with the use of this, dropout rate has been reduced in first year of BTech by 15%. Next, Tableau, as I told you, Tableau is as well as Microsoft Power BI is a data visualization platform. I am just giving you a visualization platform for visualizing the pre-model as well as post-model. You have to probably explore on each of these platforms. So what does this data visualization do? It visualizes the student data, creates dashboards for department heads, professors, and administrators. It will identify the trends in academic performance, faculty productivity, and placement records. So SRM uses this Power BI to visualize department-wise pass percentage, gender-based performance, and course completion rates. It is used for NAAC accreditation reports by showing visual academic outcomes, and it also helped faculty improve curriculum and identify weak subjects. And another important tool is SPSS as well as R programming, which is run detailed statistical tests like ANOVA regression and correlation tests, which helps in understanding, as I told you, correlation analysis as well as trends and then regressions and then interdependencies or using this statistical analysis software. So University of Delhi uses this SPSS to analyze the student feedback surveys as well as online learning, and then faculty trainings been revised, etc. And these are Amazon Redshift, Google BigQuery are cloud-based data warehouses, which helps in processing as well as storing huge volumes of educational data from LMS, and then ERP examination systems, which uses advanced analytics like student progression, predictive modeling, etc. And then Google BigQuery is being used by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, which stores IoT and LMS data from all 7 campuses. It has 7 campuses, and this Google BigQuery is a cloud-based warehousing tool which helps to store as well as to process huge volumes of data. As I told you, these are the tools which help in AI predict student performance as well as dropout predictions. So what are the main uses? Early identifications of students at risk, personalized learning plans, performance prediction models. Machine learning models can be used to understand the trends as well as predict the learning capabilities of the students. So this is the overview of what we have seen. Civitas Learning helps provide strong predictive analytics with limited customization. And then Microsoft Azure offers highly customizable predictive models for educational institution. And then you have IBM Watson Education, which delivers personalized learning with moderate customization capabilities, and Starfish by EAB, which focuses on basic student monitoring and minimal customization. So which we already seen. Predictive analytics platform with Civitas Learning, and then Starfish by EAB. This is a tool which alerts student engagement and faculty coordinations. And then Microsoft Azure is a cloud computing platform that provides AI plus ML plus data analytic tools to build smart education solutions. IBM Watson for for education, which uses NLP as well as predictive analytics and then recommender engines. So the real world impact of these tools, to give an example, SRM uses AI to predict student dropout risk by analyzing attendance, internal assessments, hostel apps, like who are absent for in the hostel. And then Lovely Professional University Punjab uses Microsoft Power BI plus ML models. And then Bennett University Uttar Pradesh professors flag students who miss 3+ classes or score low on test. So these are all the advantages of applying AI in the regular curriculum, which helps the institutions to work on their student retention, work on their faculty retention, work on students dropping out, etc. Now we will see AI for institutional decision making and policy development. So what are the challenges that are being faced by the institutions? Limited insights from manual data analysis, delayed policy response to dynamic student needs, and inefficient resource allocations. How is AI benefiting the institutions? Is by making a lot of huge amounts of data is being present, and data can be stored as well as made data-driven decisions can be made, as well as predictive analytics can be done. And then you can even talk about evidence-based policy creations and then efficient use of institutional resources. So popular AI tools for decision making is RapidMiner, which helps in it's a very good tool. You have Veka as well as Veka also, which helps in giving out the classification, clustering, analytics for and even predictions also. Microsoft Power BI for visualizing the dashboards, which understands wherein which the analytics can be clearly visualized and understood. And then Tableau as well as Power BI helps in giving the visualization. And then IBM Watson generates the actionable insights from large data base for policy creation. So AI applications, institutional policies help, like you have diversity monitoring and then budget optimization, enrollment forecasting, and then curriculum development. So cybersecurity and data privacy in AI-driven educational systems. The main concerns are like all systems collect vast student data, and then which includes personal information also, which is a very point of concern. And then cyber threats as well as data breaches are on the rise. And then institutions must comply with laws like GDPR, FERPA, and then COPPA, which are the laws actually. So now why is it important? It protects students' digital identities, and then you have to ensure trust in AI systems, and also to avoid legal as well as reputational risks. So these Tableau, Google Cloud, CloudForm, RapidMiner, Microsoft Power BI helps in making the challenges. So you have for this popular cybersecurity AI tools for education, you have Darktrace, which is a real-time threat detection, autonomous responses. It's an AI-based cybersecurity platform that learns the normal behavior of the users and then systems in college network, and then flags the unusual activities. So this is one cyber AI for is an AI tool, Darktrace, which helps for threat detection. And then you have IBM Security QRadar, which is a security information and event management tool that collects, analyzes, and correlates log data across campus IT systems. So it detects suspicious login attempts across different departments and alerts IT admins in real world, supports regularity compliances. So Vellore WIT is using this QRadar to monitor campus lab systems and faculty accounts. And it has detected multiple failed logins from abroad on professor's account. One of our students actually are working on this log-based multiple entries. Actually, we have got the data, multiple data from the WIT Vellore, which has given wherein which multiple failed logins have been analyzed for identifying if there is any malicious intrusions or not. So blocked accesses as well as altered ID, avoiding potential research data theft. And then Cisco Umbrella is a cloud security for campuses, cloud delivery security service that protects students and staff when they access the internet, maybe on campus or off campus. So it blocks the accesses to malicious websites, links, and downloads, and it will monitor internet traffic from campuses, Wi-Fi as well as VPN. And it also works even if the user is off campus or not. This is Cisco Umbrella, is a tool which helps you understand the security for the campuses. And then Palo Alto Network Cortex. This is security orchestration, an AI-powered security operations platform that automates threat detection, responses, and case management. So it integrates data from multiple tools like antivirus, firewalls, etc., and automates repetitive tasks like blocking IPS or disabling accounts, and it helps overworked IT teams respond faster. So we have seen till now, like there are multiple tools, lot of tools are there which can be used in educational systems, in the policy generations, institutional decision making, and then we have seen for student improvement, faculty addressing the student problems, and then research, all these things. So, and we said that when we are talking about writing the papers, in a conventional way, it is human centric, but now AI is taking over, and then AI is helping us to do all these things. Now, let us understand what are the limitations of generative AI tools in research context. We said that, fine, you name the requirement, it is being generated by AI. Fine. If that is the scenario, what are the limitations of Gen AI tools in research context? The first limitation is limited understanding of the context and real world knowledge. If you suppose some of you ask any query that is been related to or the data that is been provided in 1975 or 1960, probably you will not get a proper answer, or neither proper you will not get a proper answer, or you may get an answer that it doesn't have an information about, because the training of all the so-called AI tools is being done from 2023 onwards, right? So any data that is been prior to that probably may not be correct. So the limited understanding of the context and real world knowledge is one of the limitations. Like many research tools are still up using GPT-4 4.0 models, which means that they know little about very latest development in your research. And one suggestion is, do not use generative AI as your single source of literature searching. Use Gen AI tool as a companion, not as a single source of literature searching. And second thing is risk of generating incorrect, inconsistent, or biased content. So for models that do not have access to the internet, like high chances of hallucination. So in such case, you always have to verify, are the citations real? Do the citations support the statement? So if your citations are not supporting the statement, probably you have to recheck and then work it out. So for models that are trained on academic sources or have access to the internet, the suggested articles heavily rely on metadata and OA content. So like if you have, we have seen that like these are the two examples which I wanted to show, which gives you an inaccurate citations, like 51.5% of generated sentences are fully supported with citations. Unsupported statements, only 74.5% of citation support and their associated assistance. So this is one of the example. And then so generating accurate citations doesn't mean they align with the arguments in the summary. Sometimes these tools may inaccurately conclude based on the introductory or general statements from the abstracts. And third limitation in the research context is lack of creativity, originality, and in-depth analysis in writing. So do not simply prompt, write a literature review on, say, for example, Gen AI, write a literature review on Boltzmann's machines. So you just don't prompt in this way. Instead, you can write your initial draft, like this is what is your impression, prompt it by giving your impression and then ask for to improve it. So that definitely will happen. As I told you, the first thing, do not use AI tools as your single source of literature survey. Instead, you can make it as a companion. So that will help us in understanding or making our things happy. And then general policies from publishers, like should not list AI as an author or co-AI, and then should clearly state the use of AI in research and published works. And then you should properly cite AI generated contents in the works, and then you should be fully responsible for the accuracy and integrity of AI generated content. And this site helps us to understand, like the one which I have shown here, helps us in learning more about the publisher's policies. Yeah, this is from my side. Any queries I would like to address? Yeah, I've seen many of queries over here, chat.
So ma'am has presented very deep contents, very interesting also. If you have any question, please go ahead. Ma'am is available to answer your questions. Very descriptive session, ma'am. We have learned a lot
Yeah.
from all the tools that you have
Thank you. Sir.
mentioned here.
Yeah, I've given an overview of all the tools, sir. Each tool has to be explored, to see that the each tool has to be clearly explored, sir, so that we can get the actual content that is intended for.
Yes, definitely, ma'am.
Yeah.
And there is some information for all the participants that tomorrow being the last day of this faculty development program. So all of us need to be present on time. And we shall have a quiz also tomorrow after the session so that we can get all the overview of what we have learned in the 5 days of this faculty development program. I hope all of you have gained a lot, learned a lot from the resource persons that we have in the faculty development program. And the attendance is also mandatory. Please, we have shared the link. Please make the attendance because from that attendance only the certificates will be given. All the day recordings are available. We'll share the recordings as well so that if you have missed something, we can get the through the PPT and the recording. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah.